Joey Reese and Billy Bootstrap.
All right. So Patreons, we want to keep Andy going here. We want to keep Chaka going on your train of thought. So continue.
Your
PTSD and stuff like that has gotten you to this point.
My thing to work out with myself is a lot of what has come from my PTSD, just from my upbringing and stuff like that, is like never feeling adequate, always feeling like someone is going to make fun of me or make me feel stupid or make me realize that I am stupid. And so, like in both of my books, particularly October, which is just a collection of short stories and poetry, I was really taking a leap of faith putting that out there, because I was afraid that, people were going to see right through me. Like, I don't know if you've ever heard of imposter syndrome.
No.
But so imposter syndrome is like any moment, somebody's going to find out that I'm full of shit and that I'm faking it. Right.
But isn't that all of us?
It is all of us. It is all of us. But it's different for artists like you and myself, where we're putting very personal things out there.
Okay.
Right. At least for me, I like in October, there's a lot of stuff in there that is derived from a lot of childhood trauma, and I really made myself very vulnerable and it was the first thing I ever did.
Now,
and I really made myself really vulnerable.
Here's a question that I would have for you. That it's your story. That you're being vulnerable and that you're being honest. How does that play into feeling like someone's going to expose you as being an imposter? Walk me through that.
Not in regards. No, I don't mean in regards to finding out that I'm a fraud. When I say imposter, I'm pretending to be a writer. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
He's not really good at this.
Oh,
he's just using. Oh, he's just riding on the fame of Five Iron. The fame of Five Iron. He's just sort of exploiting that sort of connection that he has with this band of people that are way more talented than he is, and he's just using this to make an extra buck, and he's not really actually all that good at it or worth my time to read. And if there is someone whose book I want to read, it's yours. Well, and I appreciate that. And the thing is I don't want to read Leonore's. That'd be a snore core. She's Little Miss Perfect. You're not going to get me to say something bad about Leonore. You can't. You can't. She there's nothing bad about her. Those are all. I recognize that those are all irrational fears to some extent, and that it's my obligation to work through those. So I have to have this have to sort of balance this razor's edge of personal responsibility and irrational fear. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? No, it does. It does make sense. As you're walking me through it, I'm trying to put myself in those same shoes, and something that you said just, it kind of clicked that switch for me. Like for me, I like to say I'm completely open and honest, and, I could talk about whatever on this podcast, but it's not true because I have a 17-year-old daughter and I have a 15-year-old daughter. And I would always, if they turn this on and they listen to it, I don't want them to, be blown away by something that I said or, cause them distress in their life. So I think of the world
Like when you say, you know, when you took me down that path of your thought process, I'm thinking for me, just like me in the world, I don't care about the people around me and the adults around me. There's two people I care about, you know, and for me, my fear and my stress would go to them. Like I can never truly uncensor myself because I don't want my kids to know that part of me, or, you know, for them to get upset or anxious over something that maybe I write about or something that I sing about. So I think, yeah, I do censor myself when it comes to them, but I don't censor myself when it comes to the world around me, if that makes any sense.
That makes sense. I mean, in October, I didn't, I mean, I am like really just bearing it all in that book. And
with a wonderful new photo shoot layout.
Yeah.
That's pages 24 through 31.
All the way down to the money shot, baby.
There you go. You and Happy Baby, legs behind your head, just sunning your buns hole.
Just coming on my own face.
There you go. Sometimes you got it. Sometimes you got to ride the bicycle and just let it go, you know? So
sorry.
Is October coming out? Like, are you?
No, it's out.
Oh, is it?
It's out. Yeah. I have probably about maybe 50 copies left, and then 50 copies of my children's book, Little.
Where can we get those? I think you've said it before on here, but remind everybody.
I think there's on the Five Iron site. There's a place where you can order it. If not, I'll have to get on Brad. Yeah, I'll have to get on Brad to see if he can put that back on there, because I mean, I have all the stuff, and the publishing company that I started with this other person has since dissolved, and I no longer work with this individual. But Shannon Faber, she's an amazing artist. We just had sort of we came to an impasse in our relationship and our friendship, and so we sort of went our separate ways. She's still a nice person, and I won't say anything bad about her. But we did sort of split ways, and and so anything that I release in the future, I'm interested to see what's going to happen with it, because she was sort of the driving force in like getting things done.
Okay.
You know, you remember when I said like it's hard to get anything done when you don't have that push from the outside that you got to get this thing done. So
like you work well with deadlines.
Yeah.
So when you're not giving yourself a deadline, it's very hard to, you know,
to get
I'll
it
do
done.
That tomorrow. I'll do that tomorrow. I'll do that tomorrow.
It's because like it's just like you said, you know, because there are all these other things that end up taking precedent. Like, you know what, my son's got to get braces. I gotta figure that out first. I'm gonna have to work some overtime to pay for that, or you know, whatever, the truck needs fixed. You know, I'm gonna have to take some time to throw the truck in the garage and lift it up, get it done. You know.
Yeah.
That's so. So. Without those deadlines, you know, I'm not really motivated to stay up until 1 o'clock in the morning writing.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, when everyone's asleep. And then I have to get up at 5 a.m. and go to work, you know, so.
Right.
But the desire is still there, and the ideas are still there, and there's a lot of really good ones in there that I want to flesh out and work on. And you're right about finding an artist to work with you. I've always wanted to work with another writer that's a lot better than I am.
Uh-huh.
That can push me to be better. Like Alan Brooks, who wrote The
Blazing
Burning
Saddles.
Metronome. Right. He wrote a graphic novel called The Burning Metronome, and if you haven't checked it out, you need to check it out because it's fantastic. I've always wanted to work with him, but he's, he's in the same situation. He's got obligations and stuff that he needs to fulfill. And, it's kind of like when somebody comes to me and is like, hey, I want to start a music project with you. And I'm like, that sounds great. I don't know where I'm going to fit that in my life.
Exactly.
So,
yeah, I mean, for me, between work, being a dad, doing 2 podcasts, and then when you do 2 podcasts, you always have other people. So I do 2 regular podcasts, and then I do one a couple of times a year. It used to be called Cross Culture Critic. Now the guy who started the whole thing, Chris Williams, it's called the Jesus Junkyard. And so like finding time to do that. And then occasionally people will be like, hey, is Reese, everybody goes through me. Hey, is Reese available for this podcast? I'm like, probably not. And they're like, well, do you want to do it? Do you want to be on it? So it's like finding that time to do all that stuff. And then on top of all that, finding time, like you said, to actually write and get it down and get down what you want and all that. Yeah, it's a huge undertaking. There's not enough hours in the day. Yeah. And that's what I want to do. I have this story in my head. Like I said, I have these 2 projects and I have the stories in my head, but I want to be able to, how like athletes will do like their biography and they'll sit down with someone and the guy will ask them a billion questions and then that guy writes the book. It's almost like that's... I'm working on one of those right now, actually.
Yeah. It's like, slow going, but
that's what I want to do.
A lot of material.
Yeah, that's what I want to do is like sit down and be like, this is my story and this is what I have in mind. And then have that person say, okay, so if chapter 1, what are you going to do? Are you going to explain who this person is? Give me the backstory. Are we, in chapter 2, are we going to lay out the problem, and how the plot is going to go? And so that's what I need. I need someone who does that in my life. And like you said, gives me deadlines. In 2 weeks, I need chapter 2,
right.
And then 2 weeks from then, I need chapter 3. And just those types of things. Cause again, it's like anything in life. You don't know until you've learned. And so I don't know how to write a book. I mean, you just don't sit down and write a book. I'm sure it's not like that, It's the same thing. You don't sit down with a bottle of wine and just drink your first glass of wine and think, oh, this tastes like this, this, and this. No, you got to learn all that. You got to learn all those flavors and what to do.
One of the things, Scott, because I had a conversation with Scott about songwriting and just being like, I really want to get good at songwriting and stuff like that. And he's like, well, listen, you just have to be okay with the fact that you're going to suck at first. But once you get through those first few songs that are trash, you'll start to come up with some good ideas, and you're going to start to learn how to, how theory works a little bit, and, what chords and notes go together a little better than others, and how to write chord progressions and stuff like that. But you just have to be okay with the fact that it's like when I first started playing the drums, it wasn't good. You know what I mean? It was shoes in a dryer. That's what it sounded like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm sure all my neighbors were like, this sucks. I don't want to hear this.
Yeah.
But my neighbors probably still say that. But, you get better. You learn how to stay in time. You learn better beats, more interesting fills, and you get better as you go along. But you have to suck first, and you have to be okay with it.
Yeah, our first 6 albums was me sucking. So hopefully, if the Insiders ever write another one, I'll have learned.
I thought you were talking about us. I mean, you could say the same thing about us. But But yeah, I mean, you have to be okay with sucking. And the other thing is, as a mature musician who's seasoned and has spent lots of time on the road and in the studio, you have to be okay with knowing, you know what, I'm going to write a bunch of new songs, but there's going to be a large portion of our fans that they just want the nostalgia. They want the 90s when they come to see us play. They're not going to want to hear the new album.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that to me is more heartbreaking, because I feel like our new material, I'm in love with it. And I wonder when we start playing shows again. We practiced yesterday for the first time in 3 years, just the Denver people. And we worked just solely on the new material. And I mean, there's a lot, it's really heavy in the new material. There's not a lot of the old catalog represented on this next set list. And I'm hoping people connect with it, because I am in love with this new stuff. And I'm wanting to take the live show in not a completely different direction, but I want to sort of blaze some new trails for Five Iron and kind of get out of our comfort zone a little bit.
I mean, I'm
afraid people aren't going to receive it.
Well, here's the deal, man. I don't want to get all deep, but when you think of music and the nostalgia of music is, we like the bands we like because they connected with us at a point in time. And so when we came out and our fans were our fans, it was the mid to late 90s, early 2000s. And so all those people, they were listening to us in their car the first time their parents let them drive from Michigan to Cornerstone or from Denver to Cornerstone. Right. It was playing when they were dating their high school sweetheart, who they ended up marrying. All these firsts for them in their life, like we were the soundtrack to their lives, as was Less Than Jake and Suicide Machines and Johnny Sacco and Boss Tones for us. So when we hear those songs will always have a place in our heart, because when we hear them, it takes us back to when we first heard them. It's a parallel. It's like if you sit your kids down to watch Star Wars: A New Hope, it's garbage. Like our kids hate the original Star Wars. Like they're not fans of them because movie and cinema and special effects have gone so far that when we were kids, seeing like the Mos Eisley Cantina scene was amazing. But for kids now, it looks like a Halloween dance at their school. Like it's the same costumes that kids are building in their basement. They look like trash. So we want our kids to look at Star Wars or Return of the Jedi with the same wonder that we looked at it, but it hit us at a point in time and it sticks with us. And so I think as Five Iron, for all of us in any project that you're doing, we're never going to take our 44-year-old fans back to when they first heard us in 1997. But we can connect with them, and we can connect with new people, you know, that.
But think about from a not to get like philosophical and
because that's
sort
what
of scientific.
All about.
So right around 13, between like 13 and 18, your frontal cortex is starting to come online, right?
Yeah.
And you're starting to experience all of this new shit in your brain, and your body is starting to produce dopamine more, right, at that age. And so when you're listening to music and you're connecting with it, you're getting this rush of dopamine, and it's really just like, it's like, you know, it's like getting high, right? And in those formative years, when those bands that you connected with at that time, they are always going to be important to you, because it doesn't matter if they go in or out of style. Like fucking, I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, you know what? I love Pearl Jam and I'm tired of apologizing for it. I love it. Every time I listen to 10 Verses or Vitology, I get a rush of adrenaline. It takes me back to when I was 13 years old and I was experiencing all this shit. And this guy was singing about stuff that I was feeling inside. You know, same thing with Alice in Chains and Soundgarden. You know, like, I mean, a lot of these bands I was starting to get, because I was already into punk rock. I was listening to a lot of these bands really early on, like Bad Motofinger came out when I'd already been listening to Louder Than Love for, you know, probably about 6 months. And so I'd already had connections with these bands, and I'll give you the one band that to me is like their first EP and their first 2 LPs will never get old to me, are Smashing Pumpkins. So Lull, Gish, and Siamese Dream, those 3 records are huge to me. And when you think about it, like when you go back and you listen to those old songs that you really connected with, and they just came out at just the right time in your life, and they hit you right where you were and spoke to you, you're experiencing that same rush of dopamine. You're experiencing that same feeling. It's taking you back, and it's giving you that good feeling of like, I was young, I wasn't worried about mortgage and fucking, you know, all this other shit, you know. Yeah. I was just experiencing life at that time.
Yeah.
And it takes you back there. And I think that's why, you know, I guess I can empathize with the crowd that comes out, and they, you know, they just want to hear stuff off of Upbeats and Beatdowns or you know, the Pants songs or whatever. You know, I mean, not that we ever play those, but I can connect with that, but I also want them to appreciate the new stuff too. You know?
Yeah, I mean? and I think there's let's just make numbers easy, right? So let's say you have 100 Five Iron fans or 100 Insiders fans come to the show, and say 75 of them want to relive their childhood and dance and have fun and sing those songs at the top of their lungs. But then there's that 25 that get it. And the songs that we are writing now are connecting. You might not be getting that dopamine rush, but I think you're getting what would another name for it be? You're getting that connection that, let's say, you know, again, everything I talked about, your first kiss, your first road trip, everything like that when you're listening to Five Iron and the Insiders. But now we're all in our 40s. If I write a song about divorce, I write a song about anxiety, I write a song about the weight of the world being on my shoulders, you know, there might be 25 people in your demographic that's what they're connecting with now. So when they were teens, we were connecting on that rush and that feel good and that connection there. And now it's more like, dude, these lyrics are hitting me. Like, I'm experiencing this. Like, one thing that, as an adult, a song that I totally connected with, and I believe I've said it on the show before, is there's a punk band in LA called The Briggs. And the Briggs have a song called Panic. And when I was going through my first divorce, that song became my anthem. Like, to this day, I want to put every lyric of that song on my body in ink, you know, because it was one of those moments where I wasn't a teenager just having fun and singing a song in a car. This was like worship to me. You know, it's not a Christian band, but the lyrics and the song Panic hit me. It touched a nerve. And so I'm going through a divorce. You know, it's not my day to be with my kids. I'm sitting in an empty house with no furniture, with nothing, you know, crippled financially. And the only thing, like, I would have certain nights is I'm playing, Panic on repeat 60 times and just screaming these lyrics basically as like a broken dude. And so I was connecting on a different level, or I connected to this band, and here they are, they're probably, when they wrote that song, they're probably like in their early 30s, maybe late 20s. I don't know. But to just be able to connect like that. And so it doesn't happen, I don't think, anymore in the quantity that we used to connect. Like, we used to be able to put out an album and your fans would love the album, when we're teenagers and in our 20s. But now that I think it's quality, that the quality of that message and the sincerity is what can grab someone. And it takes a 44-year-old, like me, that I can say to somebody, hey, you need to listen to this song. Like, if the Briggs come through town, am I going to go to their show? Probably not. I'm not in that scene anymore. I don't have my ear to the ground as to who's coming through town. But whenever somebody goes through a tough time, I'll be the first one to be like, hey, if you're going through a tough time, man, just listen to this song. And hopefully it resonates with them. Hopefully 1 out of 10 people that I, tell to listen to, hopefully it does for them what it did for me. And I just think as we get older now, those are our connections. I don't need to be singing about my first love and a breakup and this and that. And it's deeper than that. And I think that shows in like mass media, and in radio and stuff like that. The people that get the plays are the young kids that appeal to mass amounts of the populace. But as you get older, it's just the small songs. We all know that one artist that we hear a song here or a song there. Cat Stevens. Cat Stevens disappeared for decades. And all of a sudden he comes back out and he puts out an album, with very little fanfare, but it's freaking Cat Stevens. And there's a song on there called In the Blackness of the Night. To my knowledge, it didn't get one radio play. But if you look at the number of plays on my Apple iTunes or, whatever, I mean, that song is just played over and over. Blackness of the Night by Cat Stevens. Phenomenal. So I think we touch people in different areas. And so, whether it's you and a side project or whatever, I definitely think that if the sincerity is there and transparency is there, I definitely think you connect with people. Definitely.
For me, that was Frank Turner. He was the artist that, like, as an adult, going through all the shit I went through as an adult, my dad, my brother passing away, my mom passing away, my wife having cancer, all of this stuff kind of coming down in such a small period of time. Frank Turner's music really just it's like I said, it was just the right place at the right time. There's a song called I Am Disappeared that I love by him. Rivers is an amazing song. There's a song called The Way I Tend to Be. There are 2 albums of his that one's called Tape Deck Heart, and the other one is I think it's called England Bury My Bones or something like that. But those 2 albums, like, every song on the album is like a fucking tearjerker for me.
Yeah.
And it's just because I needed to hear that as an adult. I'm not gonna connect with, like you said, I mean, I still love songs like Sugar in Your Gas Tank or 409 in Your Coffee Maker from Green Day, like those old punk rock or ska punk songs, but they are nostalgic, but they don't hit me where I am now.
Right. You're not gonna pick up in 2021. You're not gonna pick up Goldfinger's Hang Ups album, pop it in, and be like, oh my gosh, where has this been my whole life? Because it's from an era and a time, where they're singing about their problems. It's not where we are now. And so it's like, it's not going to connect. You're not going to connect with teenage angst as a 44-year-old,
Well, I think that's why Five Iron is trying to just, like, we're done with sort of pandering to this need for nostalgia. Like we have to write and play and perform music that is meaningful to us. And and like I said, like I appreciate the fans that are there, that were there from the 90s, and they want to hear those old songs. And I really try, because I think we talked about this before, I put the set lists together, and I really try to even it out. But I feel like this time, especially with this last record, like we're all so proud of it, and it's a shame. It would be a shame to not play any of these songs live.
Yeah,
because our heart, it was so into this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's what it is. And so I think when it comes back to the numbers, the insiders, as young and dumb as we were, one thing that we always said, and it rings true to this day, and I still use it in different areas of my life today. We used to always say we would much rather have 10 people that wanted to be at our show than 100 people that were just like, just there for a good time, And so It's the same thing. Our numbers, because again, we're not appealing to masses anymore. We're not putting out where, 1,000 kids are just looking to sing and dance for a good time. Mm-hmm. Those years are behind us. We are now, like you said, the Frank Turner, the Cat Stevens, these singular moments that we as adults are connecting and being like, oh my gosh, like I'm connecting with this because it's where I am in my life.
I'm connecting to like stuff that my brother, the one that passed away, stuff that he listened to that I never gave a chance, is like in heavy rotation in my music right now. Like Joni Mitchell, the Blue Album, fucking hell, man. Like that, the lyrics on that and the emotion behind that. If you can listen to that record and not at least get a little misty-eyed, you are a rock, because it's so good, and obviously Cat Stevens, Neil Young I listen to constantly. Like he's always on my playlist. Yeah. Dude, are you a Pink Floyd fan at all?
No, not a Floyd fan.
You should listen to the song Time, even though you're not a fan.
Okay, I'll write it down.
Listen to it as an adult and pay attention to the lyrics, because I have heard that song thousands of times. And then there was one day where I was listening to it and I focused in on the lyrics. And as an adult, as you get older, that song takes on a whole new fucking meaning.
Yeah. Yeah. When you talked about, what your brother tried to get you into and you didn't give it the time of day, one of my regrets in life is my grandmother. My grandma always played, she always played piano in the church. She was raised in Arkansas, learned to play piano at a young age. And she was like the one who would sneak into the church and play, like, she called it the boogie woogie. Like she would play like Jerry Lee Lewis stuff and whatnot when no one was around, because she would get kicked out and like kicked off the church praise team or whatever. And so my grandma could play piano amazing, that old school style. And she always wanted me to listen to Johnny Cash. Well, when you're 11 years old, 10 years old, and everybody at school is listening to Vanilla Ice, and your grandmother's telling you to listen to Johnny Cash, you're like, there's no way I'm listening to that old fart. You know, I don't want to listen to another old man sing. And then she passed away. And after she passed away, I was watching, this is years ago. I saw the remake of Dawn of the Dead. And the main song in that, the lead song for that is When the Man Comes Around by Johnny Cash.
Oh, yeah, that's a good song.
So I hear that and I'm like, oh my gosh, who in the world is this? You wait for the credits. I see it. I'm like, Johnny Cash. Immediately go to the record store, get the album that has it, listen to every song. I am like, this guy, where has he been my whole life? And he was right under my nose. My grandma had the 8 tracks, and my grandma, every time he was on television, my grandma was calling me in to watch him on TV, and I didn't give him the time of day. But that's one of those artists that what he was experiencing even as a younger man, are those things that I'm connecting to at that point in my life. So in my 30s and 40s, I get what Johnny Cash was singing about back then, like those struggles. And you're just like, oh my gosh, I would have loved to have just sat down and like listened to that with my grandma, played guitar, and sing while she's playing piano and just play Cash songs. It would have been phenomenal. And I wasn't able to do that.
I got into a lot of that stuff when I was in 5 I got really into Johnny Cash. My son's middle name is Cash. I got really into Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, Hank Williams, and then the stuff that my dad listened to that I never really, I always thought was like corny and stuff like that, was stuff like Eddie Cochran and Gene Vincent. He liked Danny and the Juniors. He liked a lot of that 50s and 60s doo-wop stuff.
Okay.
I remember listening to an episode of Pickle and Boot where Reese was talking about me going through these different phases, where I was like, I went through a serious rockabilly phase. And I was like, I got way into rockabilly because I was trying to make this connection with my dad who had passed away. And I kind of was like, I kind of want to embody him for a little while and be him. And he was a greaser, man, like white T-shirt, Dickies, sleeves rolled up, cigarettes rolled up in his sleeve, pompadour, always had a cigarette hanging out of his mouth. That was my pops. And I quit smoking because of him. So I never had the cigarette thing. But I wanted to embody him for a while because I didn't want him to be gone. So I wanted to kind of take some of his essence into myself.
Yeah, for sure.
And so and it was a really cool journey to get to go and go, okay, this is the stuff my dad was. And Jackie Wilson was another one. Little Richard, fucking hell, dude. I love Little Richard.
Let me paint you a quick story here. I was always a fan of Little Richard. He's always been someone who I enjoyed listening to growing up, listening to him on the radio. I took a history of rock and roll class at college. And the class started where you walked into the big auditorium and Mel Torme, like the old crooner, the old white guy, Mel Torme was just playing before class started. So you walked in, Mel Torme. For those of you that don't know Mel Torme, substitute that with Frank Sinatra. So like just that style of music is playing. People are walking into the classroom. It's playing, goes to the next song. Finally, after 20 minutes of listening to this, a half hour of listening to this, the teacher comes in, goes over the syllabus, goes through everything. So again, this whole time, Frank Sinatra, Mel Torme are playing. So now we've literally been sitting there for an hour listening to Mel Torme, Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin. And it's the first day of class. So then the teacher says, the professor, whoever, I still don't know what delineates one from the other. So all of a sudden, like the professor is like, all right, you guys, imagine yourself, it's 1952. Your parents every night get home from work and put Sinatra on the record player, put Mel Torme on the record player. And this is what you've heard. This is music to you as a 13-year-old in 1952. And he goes, you get a radio for your birthday. There's no microwaves. There's no cell phones. There's nothing polluting the air to keep radio waves from traveling great distances. And he goes, you're sitting in your bedroom at night, you're flipping through the radio station, and out of Mexico, you get a radio signal, and this is what you hear. And he turns it on, and it goes, a womp bam, a loo bam, a womp bam, boom, I got a gal named Daisy.
Yeah, oh, yeah, dude.
As soon as that, I just gave myself chills.
Yeah.
And after listening to Sinatra and Dean Martin and Mel Torme, to hear Little Richard, it sounded like you were listening to the Suicide Machines. It sounded, It sounded punk. It sounded gravelly. It sounded gritty. And I'm going to tell you right now,
Little Richard is 100% punk rock, in my opinion.
I do too. I believe it's a mindset, not a style of music.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, there's an interview, I think it's HR from Bad Brains, talking about Chuck Berry, and he's playing, like he's doing the duck walk and all of that stuff. He's like, and nobody never seen that shit. That he's like, that's some punk rock shit.
Yeah,
because he's like, I'm gonna do this.
Yeah.
Fuck you if you don't like it.
Absolutely.
And everyone loved it.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And then the killer, Jerry Lee Lewis, he came out. Chuck Berry. The story goes, as I recall, and those of you that are music historians that are listening, if I'm wrong, feel free to call me out in the comments. But the story goes, Jerry Lee Lewis was set to headline, and Chuck Berry was the opener. And Chuck Berry threw a big stink, right? He's like, I'm not going to open for you. I'm Chuck Berry. So Jerry Lee Lewis says, all right, fine. So then he goes, he plays his set, ends it with Great Balls of Fire, sets his fucking piano on fire while he's playing. And as he walks off stage, he says to Chuck Berry, follow that. I mean, I don't know if that story is true or if it's like an urban legend or whatever. But, I mean, we know that he did set his piano on fire.
Yeah, I choose to believe it's true.
Yeah. But, yeah, like that, I love those old stories. I love, hearing about that stuff. I wonder if, like someday people will be telling stories like that about us. I mean, not that I think that we deserve to be in the conversation or anything like that, but it would be nice, to be a part of that conversation, when people are talking about 90s ska and crazy shit that went down and, it would be fun to be part of that conversation and just be kind of like a fly on the wall listening to people talk about.
I mean, I definitely.
But I think the problem now is so think about when you were. So one of the topics that I proposed to talk about was growing up Gen X. Like one of the things I wanted to talk about. It's funny that we're talking about this. Was like. So nowadays you have kind of access to everything, which is great, but it also has sort of ushered in this fast, popularity of music. Like, so it's like you are popular one day and you are forgotten the next, right? Whereas, when we were coming up, it was like, I don't know if you ever did this, but like I remember waiting in line at the record store to get the new Maiden record. new Iron Maiden record, when Seventh Son of the Seventh Son came out. Like, I remember waiting at the record store for that and getting it. And I had to memorize every lyric. I had to know every lyric of every song on the record.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And then there were albums and bands where they didn't put the lyrics in the liner notes. Or you had a copy of a copy of a copy of a dubbed tape that someone gave you.
Yeah.
And to learn the lyrics, you had to, like, I remember I had a yellow legal pad. I had like 4 or 5 of them. And I would just, I would play the tape, listen to it, write the first couple lines down, rewind it, write the next couple lines down, rewind it again, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, just to get all the lyrics so that I knew, when the band came to town, I would know the lyrics to the songs and I could sing along.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying, I'm not trying to make like, when I was your age, I had to walk uphill both ways in the snow to get to school and stuff like that. I don't mean it like that. I mean, like, I feel like the younger generations are missing out on that deep connection to music where it's like it's not like you had to work for it. You wanted to work for it.
Yeah.
Like the love was there. So it was like, man, like I love this band so much that I'm going to spend my afternoon with headphones on, listening to their album and learning every lyric so I can sing along.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
This might be a poor parallel, but it's like when we were growing up, an artist would spend years crafting an album. And so they would spend years crafting an album, and they would come out with an album like every 3 years, every 5 years. Mm-hmm. And then in the 90s, Pro Tools came out and digital recording came out. And then it kind of made it where you had MTV and you had things and it accelerated things. So then artists were putting out an album like, if not every year, every other year. And now everything is so at your fingertips that an artist only has to put out a song. And they put out that song because they don't need to do an album. Those are obsolete. So you put out a song and it's, instead of putting your entire album out where it can be forgotten, nowadays you put out a song. And then you ride that song till it crashes, and then you put out another song, And so
what's funny about that?
What's that?
Is that's the way it was in the 50s.
Yeah, exactly.
You released a single and a B-side.
Exactly.
On a 45.
Exactly. It's crazy how it's come full circle.
It's so interesting that you say that. Yeah, it's come full circle.
I had this conversation with someone probably about a year ago, and we came to the same thing. We were like, dude, we've gone back to where you just put out a single. And that's what you do, and you ride that out, and then you put out another one. And then the Beatles came along, and the Beatles, are the first ones who put out like a themed album, multiple song, like that. They contributed that to music where it was like, no. We're not just going to do a song. We're going to give you 15 good songs, and so things like that. So the parallel, I think the poor parallel that I wanted to say is art. So I think there's today, the guys that put out one song, they're still artists. But the way that I look at it though is like back in the day, it was like a beautiful painting that could be remembered forever. Like you put out this album and it has the artwork on it. It has the lyrics. It has everything that went in, all the thank yous of all the people that went into making that album. And it was like this hour-long masterpiece that you could listen to. I think people today and the artists today are still artists, but I think it's almost like a really good chef. Like you get that piece of cheesecake that has this like sugar sculpture on top of it that's amazing, and the way that this is with that and that's this in this piece of cheesecake, it looks amazing and it tastes amazing, but when you eat it, it's gone. Yeah. And you can't appreciate it like that painting that's always on your wall, or that album that's always there. When you're just putting out singles every 4 months, I don't want to say it cheapens it, because again, they're still artists. I'm not knocking people in 2021. They were born. They didn't ask to be born in this century, right? They didn't.
Right.
They,
Yeah, sure.
they didn't ask to be artists now. So they're doing what they know to do. It's just from my 44-year-old perspective, I just look at it as like it's a quicker art. It's a piece of cheesecake that you can eat and devour and move on, rather than just this year or two of passion and writing that went into that.
One of the things I wanted to do. Sorry.
That's all right. It's getting late.
One of the things I wanted to do with Five Iron. So one of my favorite hip hop artists is Joyner Lucas, and he put out an album called ADHD. But the way he released it was one track at a time. So he released the full record, but he released it one track at a time. And it was over about the time span of I think it was over a year, right? And I love the way he did that, because he still created one big piece of art, like an album, right? But he did it in these tiny increments that kept you engaged over a long period of time. And then at the end of this experience, you had this body of work that was all together.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I've always wanted to do that with Five Iron, where we record one or two songs at a time and release them over a period of time, but they're all a cohesive piece of work that belongs together.
Yeah.
It's almost like, and I'm not making a false equivalency to Picasso, but it's like, okay, you have Picasso's blue period. Well, that was a long period of time that he made all this, he painted all those, but they're all one cohesive
collection
piece of artwork. Yeah, it's a collection of work, an oeuvre or whatever you want to call it. But
yeah. No,
do you know what I mean, though?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you are yawning and I'm yawning, and so I think we're bringing this to an end. We are the paid portion, Pickle Peeps. We are bringing this to an end. I want to thank Andy for having him back on again. Thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to do this, to get away from wife and the kids. And I don't know what's going on, with Reese. I don't know how long he's going to be out, so I might be coming back to this well again, because the conversation's amazing with you, man. I thank you, brother. I love you.
Love you too, man. And I'm open to it. So
perfect.
Just let me know.
All right. Well, cool, everybody. Thanks a lot. Patreons, thank you so much for subscribing and donating money to us for this. It's amazing that you spend your hard-earned money on us. I can't thank you enough. Again, I'm not Reese Roper. I'm just riding his coattails. But thank you so much. We're out of here. See ya.
Peace and love.